right, good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of the How To series. My name is Michael Audu and I'm the founder of the High Performance Network and also the lead consultant on One Team Business Network. Good to have you here again this week. And this week we're going to be focusing on a very important topic, which is titled How to Measure Key Results in Your Life. How to measure key results in your life. And quickly, during the marketing of this particular episode, when I was talking about it, I mentioned how that whatever you do not measure, you can never improve, because the concept of improvement is the movement of it's movement from a point A to point B, either in quantity, size, and in point A to point B, where point B is the desired progress we want to make. So that's what it means to improve, to move from one point to another, the journey from point A to point B, positive increase. In anything that we want in our life, we call it an improvement, right? All right. So basically, if you're not measuring key areas of your life, if you're not measuring your output, if you're not measuring what it takes to make improvement, you will not be able to make actual, arguable, provable improvement. And sometimes you might be making improvements, but you will not be able to extract the joy from it, because there is no measure, there's no proof, even to yourself, that you're making progress. You get? So this episode seeks to help you break down this whole process of making progress so that you can measure it, you can see that you're making progress, and then you also feel more fulfilled, focusing on the cause, not just the effects that we find. Okay, so in the next few minutes, I'll take us through 3 simple steps that help us to measure key areas in our lives. Step 1 has to do with identify the key areas of your life that you want to improve. What are the key areas you want to improve? It could be spiritual, it could be productivity, it could be finance, it could be marriage, whatever area. You have to identify that this area of my life, I want to make improvements. I want to make progress in these areas. So that's the very first step. But because I am famous for speaking on productivity and finance, I'll take those two and I'll use them for examples as we proceed. So let's say you've identified productivity and finance as 2 key areas you want to improve in your life. Then you can now go on to step 2. Step 2 has to do with identifying the milestones for progress in your life, or in that aspect of your life that you want to make progress. Identify the milestones. Okay, let's take classical example. Let's say in your career, let's say you have a job, you're a banker. Yes, you're a banker, for instance. For you to make progress as a banker, you most likely would need higher levels of certification or education, right? Certification or qualification for you to make progress. It might not be the only thing, but it's one thing. Your other things could be your key performance indicator, you meeting your key performance indicators, right, in the workplace, and your performance reviews and getting good scores on your performance reviews. But let's say your level of education is a blockade to your next level. You need an MBA to be able to become a branch manager, for instance, or to become a regional manager. And then you now discover, okay, this is a key stuff that I would have to work on. It's a milestone that can determine the cap to where I can go. So you now say, this qualification, an MBA, is a milestone for progress for me as a person. You understand the idea? Let's say you're in business, you want to inject new funds into your business. You currently have invested, let's say, $5,000, $10,000. You know that for you to get the equipment, the land, and some other things that you want to do for your next level of business, or get the staff, the quality of hands to make your startup go kaboom, you need, let's say, $25,000. That becomes a new milestone for progress for you. You understand? So the game is this: you have to identify key milestones in the areas of your life where you want to make progress. Key milestones. It could be a skill you might need to acquire to make actual progress. It could be sales targets. It could be number of articles if you're an academician, right? Yes, number of articles could determine whether you're going to be a prof, or whether you're going to make progress in your career. The number of journal articles you get published, peer reviewed, and published in credible journals. It could be membership, or yeah, membership of certain institutes, Institute of Engineers, Nigerian Institute of Architects, American Institute of Architects. It doesn't matter. It could be a membership, it could be an exam you have to pass, it could be a fellowship program you have to attend. All of these things could be milestones. And when you identify key milestones that you have in your life, like okay, this 1, 2, 3, 4 that make for progress, then you can now say, you can now take the next step. So step one is identify what areas you want to make improvement, or what areas you want to measure to see how well you're moving, right? The next thing is to identify the milestones for progress. Okay, you are currently here, you have a BSc in finance, you want to get an MBA, you have a BSc in economics, you want to get an MBA. That's a milestone from your current location. You have written 10 articles, you want to take it to 25 quality quality published articles, high quality published articles. Don't mind my English. All right, so let's say in terms of finances, as a person, you have a target for savings, or a number of diversified assets you want to get into. That could also be a milestone for you. You know where you currently are. You have 100,000, 1 million, 10 million in savings. This is where you are. Where do you want to go to? How much do you want to have in emergency savings? How much do you want to have in assets or in investments? How much do you want to, you get all of these kinds of planning, your insurance coverage, different kind of things you want to plan for, and have that these are milestones I want to get to. So number 3, which is very, very important, is that you have to quantify the building blocks. So number 1, you identify the key areas. Number 2, you identify what counts for progress in those key areas, right? What milestones count for progress across the key areas that you're trying to make improvement. And then the third thing is to quantify the building blocks. Break whatever you want to do down into bits, so that it doesn't remain as a whole. It doesn't remain as one big whole. You want to say, okay, I'm trying to get an MBA from Lagos Business School, and that would mean I have to raise 6 million, 7 million thereabouts to be able to run the program. If I'm going to be there, if it's going to be a weekend program, different things, what does it really take? You could take even just the knowledge of what you want to do as one step. Second step could be saving up the money or paying tuition, depending on how liquid you are. The next step could be planning for the whole time that you would have to commit. It's quite difficult taking an MBA. It's quite difficult. It's quite difficult. Not, in fact, what is not difficult? Any course you really want to take and learn and do what they say, you will take a lot of resources to make it happen, right? So you have to break it into bits and say, okay, this is the milestone, this exam. Okay, for my membership, this particular month I'll be focusing on just this. Next month I'll be doing this. Next month. By the time you break it down, you'll be able to measure that you're making progress. You're able to measure because now you have it in countable terms. So the idea about measuring is about making what happens in your life or your action to be in countable terms. Oh, this month I wrote 2 articles and it's out, and that means I am XYZ away from the total number of articles I want to write. So if I keep going at this rate, you get. So it's all about creating a sweet story in numbers of where you are and where you want to go to. Quantify it in building blocks. This is your level of current finance. This is your target. This is the spacing. This is how much income you want to set apart and stuff like that. Because if you're not measuring it, it's not going to happen. Or it's not good. Even if you're making progress, you're not going to know you're making progress. That's just the point I'm trying to say. If there's no measure, you're not moving from point A. If you're moving from point A to infinity, you're most likely going to get burned out. But if you're moving from point A to a definite point B, it's a journey worth taking. When you get to B, you can move to C. That's it. But know what A, know what B is. There's a qualification I want to meet. There's a level of skill I want to hit. These are the skills I want to gain in 2021. This, you get. Now there is a measure. You can now say I met 15%, 20%, because there was 50 you wanted to do. Now you have 20. It shouldn't make you feel bad or good how well you do it, but at least it gives you a sense of this is what I did. It's not only about what you did not do. Even what you did is a big deal. Right? And if you did not take any step, at least you're sure that you didn't take any step. Not that you get to the end of the year and be like, this year was great, I did my best. On what? Based on what? Based on what? Based on what measure? You right? Based on what measure? What are the key areas? So this pieces, I call them your quotients. Your quotient. So let's say for me, let's say you want to be a professional trainer, for instance, right? I train finance, high performance, right? What key metric what key metric will I use to know that I am making progress? I might say the number of people I train that come back with a very positive feedback of at least 3 or 4 over 5 experience, customer experience that come back. Because if I say I'm training 5,000 people, I can train 5,000 people and nobody's going to tell me anything, right? No feedback, and that's just blank. It doesn't really mean in fact, that's a bomb, an implosion bomb, because it might come back to hurt you. But when you put your metric on something that really matters, the number of, let's say, 50 people you train that enjoyed the training. If you're a baker, for instance, you might say you want to come up with at least 2 or 5 new designs every month, whether for clients or for personal training purposes. That makes you make progress. It's your productivity quotient based on your career. You might want to say, let's say you're a digital marketer, you might have some numbers you want to meet, or the number of ads or creatives you want to produce in 1 month for yourself or for clients. You're an architect, a construction person. Let's say you're in construction, you might say this is the number of projects you want to work on. It's all about you. There is no rule to it, but you have to have key numbers that you are consistently thinking of, working on, moving towards every day as you wake up, as you go to bed. Not like every day, but like most of the time. If somebody is asking you, what are you working on right now, there should be a straightforward answer like, oh, I'm working to make this and this workout, and I'm working to make this and this workout in your personal life or in your career. Let it not be like every day is just going by. And that's the purpose of this particular session. You have to put a measure on your progress as a person. It doesn't matter your industry, it doesn't matter the nature of the job. Even if it's a routine, when you're done, you're closed, there are still things you have interest in. Those areas of interest, put a measure on them. It's very important, because when you measure, you can improve. You can say, oh, last time this is this. And then I would want you to separate productivity quotients from learning quotients. Your learning quotient talks about how many hours or how much content you're able to take in. Productivity talks about what you bring out as a result of your learning, your understanding, your skills, your resources, right? So think of productivity, your productivity quotient, and think of your financial freedom quotient, you get your travel towards financial freedom. How are you approaching it? Are you having more assets? Are you having side incomes coming in? How much did you raise in side incomes compared to how much you wanted to raise, right? Have stuff like that, because it keeps your mind active. Once you are tracking something, you're measuring something, it keeps your mind active and in search of opportunities in that direction. All right, so to close this session, number 1, I talked about identifying the key areas you want to measure. You don't have to measure everything at the same level. Few things, just 2, 3, 5 things, 5 numbers that you're tracking, right? So 5 key areas: career, and just career, finance, maybe love, and blah blah blah. Right? Second thing is to identify the milestones that define progress in those key areas. Then the third thing is to identify the quotients, your productivity quotients, financial freedom quotients, or whatever quotient or whatever number that you'll be using to track your progress in that key area. In your career, the number you might be using, if you're an academician, as I said, it could be number of articles, and then you now say 2 articles, 3 articles. So everything you're thinking core around articles. If it's certification and articles, you put them side by side, right? Some fields need more things to be tracked, some things need fewer. Fine. Some people, whether it's spirit, it doesn't matter what area of life, have key things you are tracking, that you are measuring, that you're writing on, that you get measuring, like, I've done 10, I've done 5, I've done 3, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I am doing compared to what I want to do. All right, so the game is to focus on the cause and not just the effects. And then in life we really can't determine the outcomes, absolute outcomes of life, but we can determine what we put in. And that's where our joy should come from, that we've put in our work in the area of time and resources. Chance can happen anytime, great, let chance happen on its own. But time, one you can control, the one you can control how you bring it in, put in your best. All right, so until next week, where we come and we speak about finance primarily, since this week is on productivity. See you then. Have a fantastic week ahead, and bye bye.